Hey, if you've got a couple minutes, I would love to tell you the news because we've got elections in France, in Britain, breaking news about John Cena, all in this episode. So do me a favor, let this video play while you go do something nice for yourself. Maybe go for a walk if you want to. Eat some popcorn if you have that on hand. And I'm going to tell you about the news for Monday, July 8th. National Video Game Day. You got Tetris, Mario, Dr. Mario, Excite Bike, all video games. I'm realizing now that it's possible I have not played a video game since the 90s, but whatever, those are solid games. And now the news. Okay, so there will be 2 episodes today. This episode that you're hearing right now is a normal news episode. There should also be another episode in your feed. That one will cover the current state of the election here in the States. There's too much going on to only do one episode. So there we go. That'll also be in your feed. But while the state of our current election is unstellar at best, France and Britain each had vital elections last week, and we've got the results. First, Britain. In May, then Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who became the first British Asian to hold the title of Prime Minister when he was appointed in October of 2022, called for something called a snap election. A snap election is an election that is called earlier than scheduled. There was meant to be an election this upcoming January, but instead, he called for it earlier. Now, the way things work in British elections is that voters elect a member of parliament, and the leader of that party that has the majority of UK's 650 constituencies becomes the Prime Minister. Now, for the last 14 years, the Conservative Party has been the party in power in Britain, but some people are not super loving how things are going lately. Brexit is not as popular as it once was. Boris Johnson was, Boris Johnson. Liz Truss didn't outlast a head of lettuce, so things aren't going great. Sunak called for that snap election, hoping that it would buy him political power. Instead, in a genuinely shocking outcome, the Labour Party, which is more center-left, pulled out a win. The new Prime Minister is Keir Starmer, a human rights lawyer who is rumored to be the inspiration for the Mark Darcy character in the Bridget Jones's universe. Now, something super important about this vote is that not everyone was very excited about either person, actually, but they also understood how important it was to not fall into a far-right situation. They wanted to make changes, even if they didn't love their options. So they voted tactically. And they called it a tactical vote, but that's not cute and fun. So some people called it a tacky V. Oh, just a little tacky V. And if a cheeky nickname is what saves us from the fall of democracy, let's open up those writers' rooms and start coming up with our own version of that, because it worked. Now, that win shocked the boots off the world, and then France said, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to do a thing. Boots like soccer cleats, you know what I mean? And then France like oui. I regret nothing, and also, I'm very sorry. While the Brits were voting, as were the French, and it would appear that the first projections show that the New Popular Front, which is a leftist group, has won the most seats. The president's centrist group took second place, and while a far-right alliance did increase their number of seats, it was expected that they would run the table, and they didn't. Next, President Macron will need to make some political decisions about the future of France, and the fact that the far right even gained seats at all is obviously not the best, but in this moment, while we stand on the edge of a very uncertain political future, at home and abroad, let's take this for what it is. A sign that most voters do not want to see a far-right future. That's good news, I would say. Good news in any book. We just now need to make sure that those voters who feel the same way here in the States also vote, Hurricane Beryl, which already killed 9 people in the Caribbean islands last week, is expected to make landfall in Texas as a Cat 1 storm, likely by the time you hear this. The trajectory shows it landing between Corpus Christi and Galveston. So if you live in those areas, I'm probably not the first person to tell you about the storm, but still, you got to be real careful out there. In fact, Texas's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is worried that not enough people have left the area yet. 121 counties are in Texas's disaster declaration area. 4 people were killed and another 3 were injured after a mass shooting at a birthday party in Kentucky on Saturday. The suspect fled and, following a car chase, was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound after the car drove into a ditch. And in Chicago, a weekend of shootings left at least 98 people shot and at least 17 dead. These shootings include at least 3 mass shootings in the city. In all, over the weekend, at least 33 people have died nationwide from gun violence. This may be new information to you because I watched the news all week and had to dig for this information. Nothing really seemed to break through over the weekend besides the fact that Biden, who has been old since he became old, is in fact old. But that doesn't make this horrific and important news. 33 people dead. It's the guns. But of course, nothing shook up the news more than the announcement on Saturday that John Cena would be retiring from wrestling at the end of 2025. Did you know that he was still in wrestling? We definitely knew that. I'm just kidding. I like him. I really thought that he had fully transitioned into acting. I know this isn't really a big story, but I didn't want to leave you with just those. So there we go. John Cena of Parks and Rec fame will give us 1 more year of wrestling, and then he will do what I thought he was doing this entire time, which is acting. And that's it. That's the news. I'm proud of voters who went to the polls thinking, uh-oh, this far-right stuff is not very good. Let me not vote for it. Little tacky V. And now that they've handled that election, they can surely turn their attention to Ted Lasso Season 4, right? That's any day now. That notice is coming, right? Still, right? I'm also proud of John Cena. I want to be clear that I really do like him. I didn't know he was still wrestling. That's all. No judgment. He's a big fan of the show. No judgment, John. But more than that, more than the prototype, which is John Cena's wrestling nickname that I definitely had to look up, because you are also a prototype of greatness. I'm proud of you.